Okay, I'm here today with Anthony Santiago. He's the director of operations for China Grill. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing wonderful, Chris. Thank you so much for asking me to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited. Well, I know you've got a great background. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you. And China Grill is an outstanding company. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about China Grill and kind of what you all are doing in your markets right now.
Of course. So actually, got very lucky with China Grill. Jeffrey Chodorow and I had a conversation in the early part of last year, really as we were coming out of the COVID pandemic at the time. And he was gracious enough to interview me and give me an opportunity to be a part of his leadership team here after the better half of a decade with Wolfgang Puck prior to, and that's where kind of I come from, and that was a partnership with MGM Resorts International and Boyd Gaming. I was working in casinos and hotels at the time, and then shifted when obviously the whole world shut down, and we had to do everything we could to kind of figure out life post pandemic. And I got very lucky. I moved down to Miami, and Jeffrey and I got the opportunity to speak, and we kind of automatically hit it off. And there was a great opportunity there for the passion that we both share for the restaurant business. For me to be able to see immediately when we sat down that it was going to be a relationship that was going to be very fruitful, because he's somebody who loves the restaurant business, loves real estate, loves deals, loves culinary prowess, loves creativity. And he looked at me and said something in the very beginning, which was, I only really want to do projects that are continuing to challenge and continuing to keep our staff engaged and continuing to keep our team members on a growth pattern. And I said, absolutely, this is who I want to work with. And he was very, very nice and gave me the opportunity to do so. And I've never looked back since. I'm extremely happy with the opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. Well, tell me a little bit more about China Grill in general. So,
Yeah, of course.
tell me about the company. Tell me about your locations. What are you guys up to these days?
Sure. So it's funny. Anybody who's from New York to Miami might remember the original China Grill and Asia to Cuba concepts that had kind of become the namesakes of where this company was built upon. And then in addition to that, we've continued to grow our other brands and we are partners with some wonderful people in New York in Red Farm, which is a partnership with Ed Schoenfeld. And it's an Asian concept that has become in the village really a staple for anybody that lives there. In Miami, we were at the Blue Door and the Delano. We have partnerships with multiple hotel groups, the Mondrian, and that we had really kind of really grown and got really big during the 90s. And I'm saying we, like I was there at the time, but unfortunately I wasn't there for that success, and I get to now enjoy the legacy that is China Grill. And listen, I'm sure it's a topic that's going to continue to come up throughout this conversation, but pandemic hit, and from a business perspective, people start to look at where does the growth happen, where does it change, and we had really started slowing down a little bit, and then in the middle of the pandemic, we coming out of, and as Miami, which is where we were basing our operations out of, we got the opportunity to have a conversation, and Jeffrey came to me and said, I have some really exciting ideas, and if this is retirement sitting around during quarantine, I want nothing to do with it. And it's a great quote because it so encapsulates who we are as hospitality leaders, that we stop doing this and we feel so lost in who we are because we eat, live, and sleep and breathe hospitality. And it's these relationships that keep us going every day. And so in that conversation, I said, yeah, let's go. Let's grab the bull by the horns and continue to push. And Miami was the prime market to kind of rebrand and restart and really start to make our mark again. And in doing so, now we have projected projects in Philadelphia. We're working on 2 new concepts in New York, and a multitude of others around the country as well, and almost a baker's dozen down here in the South Florida market. So it's a cool opportunity to be on the precipice of such a aggressive but also smart and important, in my opinion, leadership team, hospitality company and team building entity that is China Grill Management.
That's awesome.
Though currently in operations, and I should have gone back to this a little bit. Currently in operations, like I said, we had Red Farm in New York. We have multiple management deals, as well as we have multiple partnerships, such as in Komodo with David Grutman. But in addition to that, we are now partners and part of the ownership for Le Coup, which is the first at its inception. We have more people joining now, but its inception, the first Bosque-inspired full fine dining restaurant that was open at the time post COVID, and we have 2 chefs from the Basque region, which, if anybody follows any of that culinarily, tends to pop out some extremely well-versed culinary masterminds. And we got very lucky with some people from that had worked in such restaurants such as Etchebarri and Azurmendi, and we put a partnership together with Terry Zarikian, who is a culinary consultant and ambassador to the Basque region, who's a partner here, as well as Jeffrey Chodoro from China Grill, Andreas Schreiner from Schreiner Hospitality. And we put this baby together that people in Miami are starting to really not only bring into their hearts, but turn into their go-to spot in Miami, because it's an oasis unlike anything else that we have here. So we're very proud of that most recent addition to our family.
It sounds amazing. I'm going to be in Florida in a few weeks. I mean, I got to stop by just to see it. I mean, that's
absolutely
brilliant. So, you're in a number of jurisdictions right now. How's business going post-pandemic?
So I would say that it's a difficult answer, because I would say if you're talking about New York market, it's very different than obviously the South Florida market right now. And not getting into politics, but the political temperature between both states is obviously very different. But in addition to that, new markets that we're looking into, Vegas and New York, are extremely different. LA and Georgia are extremely different. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're staying within the perception of our guests of what's appropriate at the time, making sure that we're being cognizant of our social responsibility towards the safety of our guests, and making sure that we're maintaining all CDC advisories and social distancing guidelines, and making sure that we hold accountability for our team members to ensure that we are at the literal pinnacle of social responsibility towards what's going on with this unfortunate situation. But in Florida, we've been very lucky. We are actually up year over year in multiple locations. I think it's because we've taken the time to ensure our guests feel safe in our premise. We don't push the envelope. We didn't take masks off ahead of time. We do what we can to make sure that we respect each one of our guests with notes in the book about how they feel about the pandemic, and whether or not they want to be served from a close distance or a far away distance. We try to really personalize the experience for our guests in every opportunity we have. So in doing so, I think it's created a relationship with our clientele that has really continued to bolster return business in the South Florida market, besides providing an experience that we deem and we believe is probably unlike anything else here at the moment.
Well, that's incredible. I know, right now, a lot of people feel like they're drinking from a fire hose with business returning. Yeah. And, to hear you personalizing the experience and making that a truly exceptional experience for your guests, that's outstanding. So you're really taking it down to the individual guest and really trying to tailor even that safety and security feeling with your guests. So that's outstanding. 100%. How has that gone over with the team? Are they engaged? How do you make that happen?
It's great, because I think what we preach extremely, I would say, extremely often, we during team meetings, during our follow-ups, during our one-on-ones, we preach culture. And for us, culture is such a big part of what our success is. And in doing so, what we really try to make sure that we concentrate on continuously with our staff is getting them to buy into what we want to promote with our team, individualizing the experience. And a lot of times what we get lost in leaders is the macro version of what we're always looking at, because we're looking to replicate and continue to drive numbers and business and EBITDA. And ultimately what we need to continue to remember is we got to this business because of the people. And the more we continue to take care of our team members and they believe in what we're doing, the more they're going to continue to make sure that the individual guest gets a personalized experience that is unlike anything else that they might experience, whether it be in Miami, New York, Dubai, London, and those markets. When you're trying to be a market leader, what separates us from the rest of the pack. And for me, it's about culture. And in our growth plan right now, it's priority number one for us is commitment to team members, and in turn, commitment to our guests through making sure that our team members are taken care of.
So, I mean, people talk about culture and they talk about, taking care of their teams. And, I'm a Marriott guy and, I've got the book over my shoulder here. And,
Yeah.
that was his thing, right? Take care of your associates and they'll take care of your guests and they'll take care of your bottom line. Uh, so what are some of the things that you're doing with your team in this high volume business that you're putting together right now to be able to create that culture? What are some of the things you're doing at China Grill to really, take care of your team right now?
Well, I think it starts with from the top, and it's about understanding that we work for them. And I think that and when I say that to a lot of leaders when they first come in and when I interview leaders and I say, you are here to set them up for success, not the opposite way around. They're not here to make money for you. You're here to make money for that. And when you change that perception and you involve your leaders in every line item, from every time a fork hits the trash can, what is that cost? And they start realizing dollars and cents. They realize that the way to protect their investment in a business is by making sure that their people buy into the brand. They act like it's their own. And we preach that on a consistent basis. And I think that that's done through one-on-ones, where it's done through team meetings, it's done through team building exercises. And when I say team building, by no means am I talking about trust falls and all the things that we've seen. I'm talking about interactive social environments where we do things in the restaurant, and or we take a wonderful opportunity here. Actually, I have Allison Zuckerman behind me here, which is because we are housed, like who is housed in the Rubel Family Collection Museum here down in Miami. And obviously it's one of the most significant art collections in not only the United States, but the world. And we have a piece that was commissioned for Le Coup, our restaurant, that is very similar to this piece behind me here, that we want to be in touch with the community. We want to be in touch with the brand. We want to be in touch with our market. And we've had a very positive influence from the Rubel Museum and their culture, bringing up arts and training and the foundation and making sure that they're finding new talent, and us continuing to try to take care of our team members, bring new culinary destinations, and continue to preach that we're going to do things different here. We're going to change the status quo. I think there's been a ton of support on both sides, and it's created this environment of interest. And what I was talking about was team building. No, not trust falls. It's walking them through the museum. It's getting them through the property and getting them to feel the passion behind the art. It's getting them to then turn that same art and passion and that artistic value and that creativity into every detail that happens on that table. So it's getting them excited about what they do. And I think that's what we lose every day in the grind of the restaurant businesses. You come in, you open, you do your side work, you do your pre-shift, you do shift, you get it done, you close out your bank, and you go home. And that's not what we got into this business for. So how do we keep our employees engaged? And it's really about understanding what motivates your people, what passions, loves, dislikes, and hatreds do they have, and how do you motivate that individual to come in every day and be excited about what they do? And when you promote that personal responsibility and you give them an ownership stake in the guest experience, instead of constantly commanding, you end up turning out much more productive results for the hospitality experience for your guests. And I think that that's probably the biggest foundation of what I think Jeffrey and our leadership team and anybody that works with us truly believes in for the growth of our company, and what we believe the culture needs to be for a lot of hospitality professionals and groups outside of, now a post-COVID world, hopefully continuing to get in the right direction towards normalcy again.
That's awesome. So your concepts are so unique, and you bring something so different to the table, or amazing to the table, with a lot of the things you've been talking about. how do you involve your associates in helping to grow that experience, not just service the experience, but to help grow that experience? How are you getting that feedback? How are you incorporating what they say into what it is you all do?
Of course, I mean it's about constant tastings. It's about constant education. We just brought in Art of Tea, one of our brand partnerships now for our tea provider, and we made sure that the executive leadership team came from Art of Tea. We made sure that, and not that it was a hard pull. They saw the opportunity and they came and they said, absolutely, we want to be involved in this project. Look at the museum. Look at what you're doing here. It's very significant. We want to be a part of the training. And I think that culture continues to be emboldened by constant attention to detail with your team. It's about commitment to your team. And what I mean by that, and it's something that I preach a lot, and I'm hoping that it will start to really engage more hospitality leaders throughout the nation. And what I've really been hoping that will change in the hospitality industry as a whole is that the old days of, a chef throwing a plate across a room because a dish didn't go out perfectly, or the things you see on TV. And listen, I have all the respect in the world for Gordon Ramsay and that image and that persona, and he's beyond successful, and he's somebody that I humbly take an opportunity to say I would love to have not only the success but the knowledge that he has one day. But again, people need to remember, at times that's TV. That's not what it's like in every kitchen. And a part of that needs to be that's not the popularization of what people see of Top Chef and Chopped and the Food Network growth and little, I would say, bubble that is Food Network promotion is not necessarily what us grinders are doing every single day. We grind out and we work our butts off and we make sure that we're here for guest experience. And it's about that constant training. It's about understanding that we are paying people for rented time. We are paying our individuals, and we need to stop expecting them to, every time that we get a call off, that they're going to come in on their day off, that every time that they schedule a vacation, that we don't give them an answer until a week ahead of time because we're not sure whether or not a cook is going to come in, that we don't staff appropriately because most restaurants, private restaurants that are, small mom and pops, running anywhere, 5, 6, 7, 8% margins. And, we do our best to try to change that perception from the guest. And we're in a labor shortage. And we're right now, none of our restaurants, especially Lake Koo down here, are currently dealing with that. And it's because we're committed to our people. And it's because we entertain their passions. I'll give a prime example. We have a server here at Lake Koo that has really, really shown an interest in wine, wants to become a sommelier, wanted to do a study abroad in doing so with wine. Not only did we support, we brought on another manager as our beverage manager. We made sure that we take care of his United States Bartenders Guild membership. We make sure he stays constantly involved in the expos. We make sure that we're giving him all the tools necessary to continue his education so he can continue to bolster the education of the staff and team. We had that server, like I said, we've given him intro books. We've taken opportunities to not only instruct him, but bring him to the Court of Master Sommeliers and say, well, he's interested in doing this. What does he need to do? Continue to give him resources to do that. We commit to our team members. It's no longer the days of, oh, if a server wants to quit, no problem. I have a stack of applications this big. I can replace them tomorrow. Those days are gone. They're gone. And the power struggle has switched. So what do we do now as leaders to continue to ensure the health and viability of our business? And it really is, it's committing to education. It's committing to the growth of our team members. And it's about committing to understanding that they have personal lives too, and that you don't need to work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week when you're first starting out and burn yourself out and end up hating this when there's so much to love about it. And I think if the culture starts to switch, the restaurant business has been stuck in antiquity for quite some time. And I think that the transition now that is being called to by a lot of hospitality leaders that have been on television, people like Wolfgang Puck, people like, Balud, people like getting on television during the middle of the pandemic and talking about culture and talking about the growth of the restaurant business and talk about the health and sustainability of where we currently are. they've been out there and talked about it adamantly, that we need to change. We need to do what's right for our people. And the guests need to also understand at the moment that we're trying to do that in a world of logistical problems, delivery problems, boats
Right.
out in the water that can't get
Right.
into port, and on all of that in the same time. So how do we continue to do that without raising prices, or without changing concept, or without maybe shutting down portions of a restaurant one night to ensure that we're keeping our margins and keeping money in the pockets of the people that are committed to us? And there's a big call right now for guests really understanding that the restaurant business is going through a flux, and a pretty significant one at that.
So I want to swing back around to something you said, right? Because
Yeah,
I've
sure.
worked in restaurants before. I've run giant properties that have a lot of restaurants, and no matter how you try to change things, it always seems to end up back where you said, right? 15, 16 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. You're always on. Uh, you know, you can't run things that way anymore. So talk to your peers right now. How are they going to make the pivot out of traditional restaurant management into where they need to be now to deliver what you're talking about? Like, how do you get people there besides just listening to high-end chefs or high-end restaurateurs tell you that you need to do it? Like, how do they get there?
So I think the easiest way I can describe this is when I was first reaching out to our assistant director of development and new projects. And he's someone that I had worked with in the past with the Wolfgang Puck organization. And the first, not only were we colleagues, but we're friends, and we had worked together for the WP organization for quite some time. And, I made a phone call to him and I said, I want you to come out to Florida. And he goes, why? What's going on? And I said, it's post-pandemic world, and I need somebody on my right hand that I can trust, and that is really truly believes in what we're trying to promote. And I said to him, I said, what did you love most about being, in Detroit or LA or Texas or New York when we were opening different brands and concepts? And he goes, the culture. And I said, so how do we continue to do that? And my sales pitch, as it may be, was very much that I had said, what I want to promote to our team members is exactly what you got to experience during quarantine, which is, holy God, this is what it's like being home for Christmas. Holy God, this is what it's like being at my kid's Sunday baseball game, T-ball. It's not constantly expressing to my children that I can't be there for the recital tonight because daddy or mommy has to work. And it's about understanding that our people have lives too. So I knew I was in the right company when I took the opportunity to speak with Jeffrey in the beginning, Jeffrey Charter in the beginning. And I had explained this exact thing, that I wanted to promote for our leaders a quality of life, an opportunity to explore their passions and drives and hobbies and create a well-rounded lifestyle. So that way, when they came through this door every day, it created the opportunity for them to speak passionately about their lives outside of the restaurant business, become more human, become more than just a robot in a restaurant every day, serve, 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 serve. And not only did he support that, but he bolstered that influence. It was like, absolutely. And so that's, if I had to say, that is the one thing that I continue to preach to leaders during this time, and getting our employees to understand that this is not just us speaking from a corporate macro level of we're going to promote culture, but then it never goes into an action. It's something that we truly, truly, truly try to do, whether it's barbecues here on property after a cleaning day, or it's different trainings, or taking our teams to distilleries so that they can experience things firsthand, or doing our best so that when they say, hey, you know what, something popped up, there isn't, oh, well, you can't work tonight. It's absolutely go home. That little opportunity to say, don't worry about it tonight. We got it covered. No matter how hard it's going to be on me, if I have to jump on the floor for myself and serve a table, that's what it takes. But that's my commitment to my team, to ensure that they know that no matter what happens, this is not just a job, but it's a family. And it's something, and a lot of people preach family and a lot of people preach culture, but what are you doing to enact it? And that's something that, as we continue to hire and grow, we're going to be looking for leaders that are going to really buy into and eat, live, and sleep and breathe commitment to their team members, and having them understand that it's not just pomp and circumstance. It really is what we enact every day, because the more we continue to do that, the more it's going to flow down to our guests, and the more the guests are going to see people with smiles and people not with drawn eyes, and not being able to wake up and yawning at the table and stressing because they might not make ends meet because we're throwing 5 servers on a floor because we can't afford to pay more, or we can't have enough cooks, so we're taking menu items off. It's a ripple effect. We needed to spend money in the beginning to take care of our people and understand that they have a life outside of what we do here. When you do that, you create an environment where people can succeed, learn, grow, and continue to want to be there every day.
Well, that's incredible. And I think, this is the pivot that hospitality in general has to make. I've talked to a number of people from a number of different genres of hospitality, right? Veins of hospitality. And everybody is saying the same thing right now, right? Which is we can't do things the way that we used to because we're never going to be able to keep anybody. Not only that, I've personally realized that I don't like working in that environment anymore, right? So now we need to make the change, and now's the time to do it. So I think it's very refreshing to hear you say that. I think from a restaurateur like yourself, and for a renowned company like yours, to be in the forefront of trying to make this change is absolutely huge. Because it needs to happen, and this industry is never going to survive if we don't make those changes. So that's outstanding. So
of course,
if you're looking to grow, you're looking to expand, you're bringing leaders on all the time. What kind of advice could you offer a new leader or somebody coming into your organization to help them be successful moving forward?
I would say pre-pandemic, it would have been make sure that when you come into this, you don't come into it with a piece of paper from hospitality school alone and understand that you're now a restaurant manager.
Right.
Practical experience is key in this, because what we generally do, you don't experience every day in a book and in the notes. And although you're being taught by chefs and prior managers and culinary school, there's nothing like being there when your pan goes up on fire and you're trying to avoid an Ansel system going off, and you're trying to understand that if you pour something else over it, it's going to be able to suppress the fire and do different things. And knowing all of the ins and outs, everybody can study health code, doesn't mean that you know how to enact it, and practical experience is huge. But that would have been prior to. I would say right now it would be reevaluate yourself, know who you are, take personality tests, understand as a leader that you have. And there's a book that I actually have and I've held on to. And somebody from Be Our Guest Hospitality years ago, a company I had worked for, when we were in a growth stage, had handed to me and said, you have 90 days to make an impression. And it's called the first 90 days on your team. And when you're coming in, whether you're taking over, you're building, or you're starting a new concept, you have 90 days to get your team to commit to what you want to do. So the only way you're able to do that is if you have emotional intelligence. There is something that has been talked about, especially in business here, in that, your IQ doesn't, you're smart, of course. You can learn things in a book, of course. You can memorize, and memorization being one of the key parts of what we do, obviously.
Right.
And that's great. But IQ is IQ, it's stagnant. EQ, or emotional intelligence itself, is something that is constantly evolving. It's about the commitment that you have to yourself and your own personal growth. And I would say that what is most important is the realization that emotional intelligence now plays a much larger role in us as leaders and business people and people providing experiences, and understanding ourselves, taking time to meditate on who we are, taking time to understand our strengths and weaknesses, taking time to constantly learn. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in this business and you think you know everything, get out. There's no reason to be here. Okay. Because it's a constant learning process. This restaurant business is something, whether it's wine, liquor, food, recipes, molecular gastronomy, there's always something to be taken and learned. And there's so many people changing the way that the culinary world is moving forward, that you constantly need to do everything you can to challenge yourself. And that is what I would say. Know about yourself, read, take the opportunity to challenge yourself and give yourself an opportunity to grow. Don't rest on the laurels right now, because right now, as you said, we're in a post-pandemic world that is moving along, and all these people are talking about this. So what are you doing to make yourself stand out from the crowd? And the only way you can do that is if you know yourself better than everything else.
I love it. I love it. That is phenomenal advice. So, if people are trying to find you, Anthony, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find you?
Of course, I mean, obviously, you can go to chinagrowmanagement.com to see all of our concepts and brands. We have a direct link to all of our current operating and upcoming projects. But in addition to that, all of our restaurants also have additional Instagram, social media, TikTok, Twitter feeds, all those types of things. But my direct is the easiest way to follow whatever I'm doing is generally on Instagram. There is a business account with @ant, my first three letters of my name, Sant, the first four letters of my last name, 31. So it's @antsant31, and it pretty much chronicles generally what's going on in my day to day, and at our restaurants, and as well as promotes everything that we're doing across the company. And because hey, I'm a multifaceted guy, but I love what I do. So although it's my personal account, it's my family every day, and it's something I learned and I've taken to heart from a prior. And I hope an old director of mine gets the opportunity to see this. But there are two individuals, the corporate executive chef and partner for Wolfgang Puck at the time, Lee Hefter, and the operations partner, Alex Resnick, that really did everything they could to let you know that it was a family, no matter where they went, whether it was Istanbul, Singapore, London. We did everything we could, and they ingrained in us that when they were there, they were with their family. And I truly believed that. So when I say it's a personal account because I truly believe that this is my life every day. This is who I am. This is what I do. I have such a passion for it. So this is our art. And the more I can share that when I'm with my family here, and I truly believe that they are my extended family. During Christmas, I was on the phone with every one of them. I was talking to my leadership team. I was on New Year's texting our entire leadership team, making sure everybody, without interrupting their personal time, that they knew that I was thinking about them. I spend morning, noon, and night thinking about these people that make the guest experience and my job easier. And without them, I'm not here. So for me, when I say it's personal, it's because it is. And I had the opportunity to work with some really amazing people that took the time to let me know how important that was. And you can feel that passion. And hopefully, as I continue in my leadership journey, I can continue to pass that on to anybody else who I come in contact with.
Well, that's outstanding. I mean, you're definitely paying it forward, and I love the fact that you're an example of the change that you want to see. So, keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely awesome. I hope a lot of people get to see this. I hope they bug you endlessly on Instagram, so they can hopefully tap into some of the things you're talking about now. But thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.